Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host, Ahmed Nawaz. Mondays once again, and it's a great start to the week where we've got a very, very special and exclusive show of Sports Extra once again on the platform of PTV World. Once again, we're going to be talking to someone who's really inspired generations and who is really, a role model out there for so many people and, of course, an inspiration to everyone out there. And what she has achieved is all beyond words, and I think words can never do justice, but we've got a great report courtesy of our team here at Sports Extra. Just to reveal who that guest is, let's just watch that report and then come back.
Urooj Mumtaz is a Pakistani woman cricket commentator, television host, dentist and a former cricketer. She was born in October 1985 in Karachi. She graduated from the Fatma Jinnah Dental College and did her master's degree in restorative dentistry from the University of Sheffield. She played for the Pakistan national women's cricket team as an all-rounder and played for the Asia 11 cricket team. She participated in 1 test match, 38 one-day internationals and 90 20 international matches. She took part in the series against New Zealand women, which was held in May 2010. She also played in the ICC Women's World Cup as captain of the team. In 2010, she retired from all forms of cricket. Urooj Mumtaz is currently serving as the chief selector of the Pakistan women's cricket team.
There you have it. So many accolades to her name. She is none other than the very, very fantabulous that she is tonight, special, exclusive on Sports Extra, the legend that she is, Miss Urooj Mumtaz. Assalamu alaikum, Urooj. Welcome to Sports Extra.
Walaikum Assalam, Ahmed, and thank you very much for having me on the show.
Well, I guess there's so much to your name, mashallah. I think I should also be calling you Dr. Urooj Mumtaz now. Of course, our fans got to know a bit of history about that as well. Bit of a cliche, but I must ask you where this journey all started. Of course, being a dentist by profession, but then again, cricket coming into your career as well.
Yeah, Ahmed, it's an interesting one because I started off like every Pakistani does with probably cricket running through our bloodstream, and we eat and sleep and drink cricket essentially. I was privileged enough to be a member of the Karachi Gymkhana Club where they had a cricket ground as well. And my dad at that time used to play veterans cricket for them, and so did my uncle, my mamu. And it so happened that as crazy cricket driven that we are, I went one day to Karachi Gymkhana. I think I was 6 years old, and there was an under-9 boys team at the time, and I really wanted to play cricket. And then throughout growing years, I was always playing in my backyard with my male cousins. Again, being the only female, there was always a strive to do better because they wouldn't take you seriously otherwise, or you would just be fielding outside all day long rather than getting a chance at batting, or maybe sometimes rolling your arm over with the ball. Interesting story, at Karachi Gymkhana, my dad was told that you're not allowed to play on the team because it's a boys' team essentially. And my dad, being my dad, sort of went around looking at the law books and figured out that there was no such rule which actually said that women can't be on the team because it was a private club. So it so happened that those boys obviously weren't very happy because one of them had to sit out because of me. And nobody really likes that. And this I'm talking about, well, back in 1991, 92. Initially it was a struggle because they either would let you bat really down the order, maybe not give you the ball and just ask you to field for 20 overs at that time. As it turns out, life went on, and I sort of got a very good understanding that if I had to play on a boys' team, I had to be better than at least half of them. And that's because somebody would sit out. So only if you can prove it on with your performance or your skill, do they essentially start understanding that it's okay for a girl to play. And funny enough, I then became the under-17 boys team captain at the very same club. So interesting growing up because, and then those boys are very good friends of mine. They encouraged me a lot. And then came along the Pakistan team. So that was, a funny story. I laugh at it now because Gymkhana was one of the platforms that allowed me to be where I am right now. But it wasn't easy when it all began.
But that's great fun, isn't it? Having a super dad around the corner who's going through the law books, getting her girl into the team, and then you've got the young Urooj who's kicking butts all around for the boys, making her way at the same time as well. But like I said, great inspiration and family support at the same time as well. But definitely that's something where your career kicked off. But like I said, then going towards professional sport, it's always different because you've got to step up your ball game. There's a lot of physical routine involved. Your physical fitness comes in. Then you've got the work and personal life balance in there as well at the same time. But then, of course, playing for Pakistan was something that must have been there always as a dream, but definitely once achieved, it would have been something you look back to.
Absolutely, Ahmed. The feeling is still indescribable. At the point when I started, I really had no idea there was a women's cricket team. And women's cricket the inception of women's cricket in Pakistan was in 1996, courtesy the Khan sisters, Shaiza and Sharmeen and Kiran alongside them. And credit where credit is due, they were the pioneers of women's cricket in Pakistan. But again, this was still earlier on. So what happened was women's cricket came along, and luckily enough, I was playing on that particular Saturday when Shaiza and I think it was Kiran who came to Karachi Gymkhana in 2004. In fact, December of 2003, that the West Indies women's team wanted to tour Pakistan in March 2004. That's when I made my international debut. And they were looking for a ground to be acquired. Again, as you know, back in the day, there wasn't much support, and they were looking for ground options to host that series. And again, the boys back then said, oh, there's a girl playing, because they were obviously looking for girls back then. Again, Emil, I don't know how much you knew about the team makeup at that point, but literally there was at that point maybe 7 or 8 cricketers. We'd like to call ourselves that back in the day, and there was literally 7 or 8 girls that would just make up the team, just so that we would have 11 to put on the field. So I gave my trials at the DHA men's college ground, and they picked me for the team. And then that was the start of a very eventful, very fruitful journey of mine into the Pakistan setup.
Wonderful indeed. Wonderful listening to all of these special moments, of course, for our fans at the same time as well. And for your fans, then of course, like you said, that's where all that fantabulous career started at that time as well. Playing for Pakistan, touring all over as you could with the team as well, sharing the dressing room. How did that, all that transform? Because you still go back and remember your time. Like I said, you were there making the lot of us boys feel very embarrassed being captained by a girl and who was always better than us, and we've got to accept that. But at the same time, international cricket, once it started, obviously, like you said, there weren't much facilities in our country, nothing there, no proper structure. There must have been a huge gap once it came to international cricket.
Absolutely. I mean, when we started off, we used to even buy our own fruit. And I say this because, not because to make somebody feel less or more. Times change and we shouldn't be comparing times, but just to actually lay out what we went through in terms of facilities, infrastructure, financial benefits. There was nothing back then. So in 2004, when I started my cricket, and I was one of the lucky people to play a test match for Pakistan. Pakistan has only played 3 test matches, and there's only been 4 women who've played all 3 from Pakistan. So in 2004, that record-breaking test match at the National Stadium, Karachi, Kiran scoring the 242 not out, Syed picking up 13 wickets, and we drawing the test match. The start was just extraordinary. You know, you put on that shirt, until you don't put that shirt and that cap on with the star onto, you don't really realize what you stepped into. And it took me a while, because for me the journey sort of kicked off really well. 2004 I made my debut. I was made the vice captain in 2005, and I was 21 when I was given the captaincy for Pakistan in 2006. And at this point, Pakistan, again being full members, you'd always expected to win, without realizing what the ground realities are, the infrastructure, where we've come from. And we literally were at an infancy stage back then. And then captaining the Pakistan women's team to the ICC Women's World Cup, which was for the first ever World Cup under the ICC umbrella, because the ICC women general body and the ICC had merged into one body. And if you remember, it wasn't easy. The unfortunate incident on the Sri Lankan men's team happened in Lahore while we were in transit to Australia. And we land there, and we're anyways underdogs of the tournament, and out comes the first question on the opening ceremony, straight directed to me. Urooj, what do you have to say about the unfortunate incident in your country? And you know, it almost puts you in the spot. And I remember what I said clearly, that a few people cannot define what a country is made of. And we're standing here as examples in front of you of how humble we are as people of Pakistan and how loving and caring our country is. And you need to see it to believe it. Unfortunately, we cannot let a few people who are out there to ruin the image of your country or tarnish the image define who we are. And that was essentially a turning point in my career in personal grooming, who I was, leadership qualities. And then again, let's not forget, we beat Sri Lanka for the first ever time in history of women's cricket in that tournament. We beat West Indies as well, and we qualified for the Super 6. And we were completely sort of taken as underdogs. We already had our return tickets given to us when we had landed because nobody was expecting us to move on. So like you're saying, it's an eventful journey, and I'm very privileged and honored to be given such an opportunity. And I really feel it's time to pay back.
Well, so much on your shoulders indeed. I truly realize this, and I truly applaud your services for the country as well, because let's face it, you weren't just there representing Pakistan, but like you said, you were also breaking those stereotypical barriers that we have inside Pakistan. And of course, women empowerment and empowerment to girls through sports is another such thing which is coming up in this day and age, that people like you inspire so many out there to just bring it up through sports.
Emma, you put it very rightly. I think back in the days, we were dealing with an immense amount of issues, cultural issues, social issues, family pressures. Just the fact that we would get asked a question that, we would be traveling on an aircraft wearing the Pakistan blaze, and people would ask us, so are you a school team? We say, no, we're the Pakistan team. Oh, you mean the Pakistan team that plays for a college? People wouldn't really understand or even accept there was a women's team. And no fault of the people who were asking us, because there wasn't much attention or hype or following around that. But just like you're saying, breaking the barriers, essentially I would call it smashing the barriers, because people just wouldn't allow their girls to play or accept that fact. I know coming up the ranks, there was lots of threats and other issues that women cricketers had to face as well. But I think you need to be brave and believe in what you're doing. And again, it's all down for Pakistan cricket. So I really believe the seed that we sort of planted back in the day is really showing the benefits and the progress that we put in back then. And it's wonderful to see how much the game has grown in the country.
Definitely it is. And of course, I'm tempted to ask you then, how did the balance between bat and ball and becoming a dentist come in along?
I really don't have an answer to that, because there was a simple mindset for me. I believe in striving to become the best, and for me the best is global standard. So when you strive for up there, you tend to put in all the hard work, because if you want to do 1, 2, 3, as many things as you want, you really need to be really good at everything to sort of justify your space. You can't have sort of your feet in two boats at the same time. So for me, dentistry, because back then cricket was a very, very amateur sport. In fact, there was more money being put in than what we would get essentially. So back then, for me, I had to become a good student. I had to clear my dental exams. There was no two ways about that. So, and I tell this story a lot of times. The other players on the team would be sleeping essentially in the afternoon gaps, in the evening gaps, on the day off, and my dental books would be with me in my kit bag, and I would have to study. But both my parents are dentists. There was enough support from my university professors who were kind enough to let me retake my exams, which is, I think, a huge factor in allowing me to do both the things which are very close to my heart. And then again, Ahmed, when you get a chance to represent Pakistan in anything, I think that is an honor above everything else. And it is your moral duty to your country to probably put in your 100% effort.
Yeah, but that's very humble of you, because I think you've got a lucky charm, because we could only do one. In fact, we couldn't even study even if we wanted to, and if we weren't playing the game ever. But doing that, both of them becoming a doctor and a professional cricketer, I think kudos to you, and bravo all the way at the same time. Of course, more than 500 runs, a great number of wickets to your name as well. Obviously, you enjoyed all parts of the game, but definitely it is a must ask from the fans as well, that one thing that you've enjoyed about playing the most, whether it was batting, bowling, or any other memory.
Ahmed, if you talk about an on the field, I was a bit of a stickler for fielding, and I for fitness as well. And my teammates would ask me to sort of take it easy on the fitness test so that they wouldn't have to catch up. But there was an incident. We were in Bangladesh, and there was about, if I'm not wrong, about 18,000 people in that audience. And we were playing the Bangladesh team. This was the first time we toured Bangladesh. It was a catch that I took on point on the bowling of Kanta, diving forward one hand, and I thought that sticks in my memory because it was a bit of a game-changing catch. But if you talk in the bigger scheme of things, Ahmed, I'll go back to the 2009 ICC Women's World Cup. Again, I was captaining the side. And like I mentioned earlier, we were handed our tickets very early on in the tournament because we were ranked 8th in the tournament, and there were 8 teams taking part, and 2 teams had to go. The format back then was Super 6, so 6 teams had to qualify. And we lost the first match to India. We scored 57 runs, and they bowled us out, and they won the match. I think it was in 9 overs or something. And my parents had specially traveled to Australia to watch that match. So they come to the ground, and we're all just sort of doing next because our coach was like, we got to make use of the day because the match has been done and dusted in an hour. And my dad calls one of the officials and says, "What's going on? Why aren't these guys playing?" And they were unfortunately told that we've lost, right? So what I did was I took those tickets and I went back to the dressing room and I asked the girls, it's now or never. We've been handed our tickets. We're world number 8. We've lost the first match to India. It depends on us. So it's up to us to turn things around. We either want to sit on this plane 2 matches there and head back home, or we make history. And it was our 18th attempt at beating Sri Lanka. Pakistan had played Sri Lanka 18 times, and we beat them for the first time ever by 23 runs. It was that moment of mine is probably one of the finest moments in my playing career, in my captaincy career as well. I thought it was a fantastic team effort game, and that allowed us to qualify for the Super 6 stage, finishing 6th in the World Cup, highest we've ever been.
I'm absolutely mesmerized. In fact, I'm actually thinking, and it's like a flashback coming where I see Urooj standing with those tickets and giving a great speech, a king's speech to all of our girls out there and inspiring them. Truly great stuff that's coming out of you tonight, of course, and we're listening to all of these great memories. Of course, obviously, history was made at that time as well. We've got to applaud that. And like I said, you had the added advantage of becoming a captain at an early age on that Gymkhana circle as well, with therefore that transcended into your leadership capabilities as well. But then again, I think it's another must ask you as well that we've got so much going around in women's cricket as well. And I'll just come back to you, Urooj, because we're going to be talking about something very important at the same time as well. And it's about how women have been transcending through different sporting activities as well. And that's a good report that's been compiled by our team of Sports Extra once again. So let's just take a look at that, and then we'll come back and then talk to Urooj about some more things on the show.
Many sports fans argue that women's sports are boring compared to men's sports. Simultaneously, women's sports compared to men's sports are rarely broadcasted in the media. Therefore, could the media be making sports fans believe that women's sports are less desirable by giving them less coverage? Using the agenda-setting theory and framing theory, an intervention was developed to promote women's sports and sports fans. Results indicate that the intervention decreased damage towards female athletes after 3 weeks, but had no effect on interest towards women's sports. Women have been fighting for equality all throughout the history. In sports specifically, women were once not even permitted to watch the Olympic Games. Women are an underrepresented population, particularly in the world of sports. Women are undervalued as athletes due to their perceived lack of athletic skills and competitive spirit. It is important to keep women and girls participating in sports and exercises because sports have many benefits for men and women regardless of gender, including decreased social loathing later in life with a history of participating in team rather than individual sports.
Right, there you have it, courtesy of our team here at Sports Extra, how women have been transcending through different forms of sports as well. Tonight we're in conversation with the legend that she is, the gladiator out there, none other than, of course, Miss Urooj Mumtaz. Urooj, another part of your career was, of course, saying goodbye to international cricket at the same time as well, where you had to retire. But, of course, you transcended into a new role of becoming, of course, a host and a presenter at the same time as well. I would ask you about that transformation, but first of all, I do realize it's very hard to say goodbye to something that you've loved for so many years.
Well, Ahmed, I miss it to this day as well. It's not easy sitting on the boundary lines and sort of watching the game that you've loved all your life and you still love. But again, like I said, I've been very, very privileged and honored to be where I am today, and it's all because of what Pakistan cricket given me. But again, to be in a position of responsibility, in a position of change where we can create things for the betterment of the game, I again feel really happy to be given that opportunity to make that change and still be very close to the game. It's sort of it's not very easy for the girls because they sort of can't give me an excuse because I've played the game, so they can't sort of maneuver their way around with an excuse, which they don't really like because the three selectors on the panel all have played the game, two of them up till the recent past. So you know the ins and outs of the games, but it's hard to sort of keep yourself sitting on the chair and not wanting to jump in. So you never really, again, cricket comes as a first love to many, including myself, and I would like to be involved in it for as long as I can keep giving back.
Definitely, I truly believe that you are still giving back, and if we talk about that role as well, like you mentioned, you always want to just grab the bat or ball and just jump into the field. We all have that feeling once we're out of that professional sporting arena as well. But then, of course, a very, very important position at the same time, because you must feel that the future of Pakistan cricket is definitely in your hands. And like you mentioned, because you played the game, then it must be a very keen eye on the girls as well. But I do know this as well, because this has come from you, because you mentioned that you've been a great athlete yourself as well, that since quite some time now, the criteria of fitness in the women's cricket team, the bar has really been set up high.
And Ahmed, there's no two ways about that. You can see the world's best teams are the fittest, and eventually they can deliver their skill at the best level as well. And there's absolutely no two ways about that. There's no maneuvering around that statement. There's no hiding behind that statement. If you are the fittest, you will become the best because then you have, and even your mindset goes with that. The fittest players have the strongest mindset as well. And again, we're trying to inculcate a fitness-driven culture within the setup, aligning it both as much as we can to the men's and women's setup, and not just at the national level. It needs to start from when you entered into the system, so that when the product comes out, it comes out fit to play at the national level, and there isn't a huge jump and we sort of struggle to fit in. So and you've seen examples. You've seen examples of the greats like Virat Kohli. You see the West Indies player. You even see our players. You see people like Babar Azam, Sarfaraz. The way they've worked on their fitness. Shan Masood works on his fitness, and all the other players. And why I'm talking about Virat is because he is one of the best in the modern days. And you see the transformation within him and the game. And again, Jaunty Rhodes. Let's go back. Jaunty Rhodes. You see these people. They are better than the rest.
Definitely they are. And of course, this brings us to another very, very cliche question. Is that one of your favorite players growing up, or still up till now, of course, one that you can see as a role model back in those days, and now, of course, modern cricket? I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned, Virat Kohli, one of my favorites as well, because of the concentration of the game he puts in.
Jaunty Rhodes, I grew up watching Jaunty. Again, like I say, I don't have an issue with giving out my age. I was 7 years old at the '92 World Cup when Jaunty ran Inzi out, and it was almost unbelievable. And to this day, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest fielders of all time. And the way he's changed the dynamics of fielding is just extraordinary. And I had a bit of a fangirl moment in the recent PSL. I actually managed to meet him personally and commentate alongside him. And he's still an idol for many. He was and still is one of my greatest cricketers, one of the greatest idols that somebody can grow up watching the sport. And the gentleman that he is just absolutely pleasant to talk to. He was nice enough to conduct a fielding session just before his departure with the girls. The senior team was in Australia at the time playing the T20 World Cup, but all the girls that were in Karachi, he was kind enough to conduct a fielding session for them. So I think what cricket does show us is how extraordinary human beings can become in spite of being sporting legends.
Definitely, I can see where that catch on point came from now, where that inspiration was, and I can see
Emma, you and me need to play a game.
If I could be just on the lighter note, I'd say even commentating, you've actually flossed your way through, because it's such a familiar voice to listen to, and of course it becomes even special when you know the technicalities of the game. You've played it, but through commentating as well. Sitting with all these legends that have been there, all these commentators who've got so much of experience. At the same time, you gelling with them, a completely different thing to fall in love for.
Again, of being close to cricket, where your heart lies. But again, Ahmed, more importantly, what we need to understand is every role has a set of dynamics, a set of learnings. I've done a commentary course as well, based out of UK. So what you need to realize that, like you say, not every good player becomes a good coach, or not the best student becomes the best teacher. So you need to understand the dynamics, and each aspect or the attributes of cricket is a different field. So the hard work is paramount. You need to put in the hard work, and you only get better while you sort of learn, and you keep repeating what you need to do, and you get better while doing it. So again, I was privileged enough, but more importantly, your credibility lies when you know what you're talking about, and you know the intricacies and the nitty-gritties of the sport, and then you have that command over it. So because I've played the game, it allows me to elaborate on the technical aspect as well. And then again, I think we've been speaking repeatedly in the past a few years about gender equality. And I think it's high time now where quality is the number one criteria for any job selection, whether it be a male or a female. So I think you need to break the ice, and you need to change the trend with, if I may say, with a bang, for people to sort of realize that women are equal to, and if I may say, better in some cases.
Definitely you are, and one thing is for sure, and I say this with utmost honesty tonight, Urooj, that if we just not look at the screen and just listen to your voice, then we can always say that it's a familiar cricketing voice, because your voice has that spark in you, and of course it is bringing out, you can always tell that it's a cricket familiar voice, mashallah, and more power to you at the same time as well. But I must ask you now, because being at the helm of affairs yourself as well, where the future of Pakistan women cricket lies now, because at times on this platform of Sports Extra as well, me and a couple of other people, I won't shy in saying this, that we have been advocating of a concept in which we could see a premier domestic league for our female cricketers as well. And to be very, very honest, me, of course, at the same time, and my producer, who's the sports head of PTV as well, Arslan, Sherazi, have been advocating the part that we've got so many sponsors in PSL as well, who are pulling in so much money. We've seen already a successful concept in Australia with the Women's Big Bash League. Of course, there's a good system there, a much healthier system, but why not have it in Pakistan?
Ahmed, and there's no denying that. It is what is required, and it is in the plans of the PCB. But what we need to understand is we need to understand why we would have a women's PSL or a women's Premier Domestic League. Primarily, it'll have to do with advocating your own talent, giving your own players a better opportunity to play with the best in the game. So till we don't have that quality of players or the pool of quality players available to us, it almost doesn't fit the brief. So it is in our pipeline. Let's not get that. Let's not miss that. But again, like we're saying, it needs to benefit the Pakistan women players. So till we don't have enough pool, we don't want to fall short in terms of anything and then it doesn't kick off. We saw India put it into place. It still hasn't boomed there. But in Pakistan, the dynamics are slightly different. We still have about a pool of about 40 quality players, in which also there is about 2 tiers, the top 20 slightly better than the bottom 20. So till we produce our own domestic system, which is producing quality, which provides enough competitive matches for the girls to become better. So it is in our plans. What we are going to be doing is, obviously, we're going to be inviting foreign players to come into our domestic leagues to break the ice. And as far as the sponsorship and the franchises, and other people who are interested in promoting the women's game, there's always a two-way street. You need to produce that quality to attract, and vice versa. They need to put it up for people to buy into the women's game as well. So I completely agree with you. We need to have a women's Premier League or a version of the women's PSL, but till we can have enough pool of quality players of our own.
Definitely, completely agreed and completely understood at the same time as well. You always give a constructive argument. That is definitely seen. Now, of course, with you at the helm of affairs as well, how is the future planning for you at the same time as well? You often get young, budding girls, aspiring players coming up to you for all the secrets of the game that they want to know from you as well, and are you always there to reach out to them?
You have to be. You have to be. When you're in a position, you have to be accessible, and all the players have all my contact details. And just as an example, in the recent past, when we handed out our central and emerging contracts, I made it a point to call all 20 players, 18 of them who got the contracts and the 2 who missed out. Called all of them individually, explaining the rationale, the criteria, why they didn't, who made it, and what the philosophy behind the entire merit-based central contracts was. And every now and then I do pick up the phone to some of the players, senior or junior. I believe all players, when they are playing for Pakistan, are equal. I speak to the captain often. They do pick my brains about fielding, because most of them have only heard stories of my playing days, because from the current law, there's only a few who I've played with. Especially again, there's no harm in saying that you can always have fun when you're playing cricket. You need to let go once you're out of the field. So I was a bit of a sort of would play pranks on my teammate. We would be naughty growing up in those days, hiding people's boots here and there. So I do share all those experiences with our players, because you can't have a principal or a teacher relationship, or the players shouldn't be afraid of speaking up, and they have a right to speak up. So I do come across, at least I'd like to put myself across as just another player to them as well when required. And again, when you need to draw the line, you draw the line as well. So, and in terms of the future of women's cricket, Ahmed, you saw what the MCG did at the final of the recent T20 World Cup. More than 86,000 fans into that stadium to watch the Australia-India final. It's the second most watched global women's event in the world. I think there was more than 1.1 billion video views in total of that event. That's the potential of the women's game. It is the most, one of the most fastest evolving game. And we, exactly in that vision, if you saw the strategic plan that PCB gave out, women's cricket has now been included as one of the main pillars of the six. And we have a 5-year strategy in place, because we need to put in that time and investment if we need to sort of stay on the bandwagon, which is moving very fast in the women's game right now. We've seen where Australia is, and hence the amount of investment that's gone into the women's game at our end.
Absolutely. Urooj, thank you so much. It's been an honor having you. Is there any message you'd like to give to people out there, all of your fans, all of those aspiring girls out there, all of those daughters out there, or sisters, everybody's there who want to become the next Urooj Mumtaz? Any words of inspiration you'd like to give to them?
The one thing I always say is that dream, because I think it's a very small word, but it has a huge impact in someone's life. And I find people are cut off just to dream. And I really believe once you dream, the only obstacle is you yourself. Because once you put in the time and the effort, there are always obstacles and hurdles that will come. But if you dream, the sky is the limit and anything is possible. And we've seen multiple examples in the world. So everybody should strive to become the best, and hard work is a must at any given time.
Absolutely. Urooj, thank you so much for having you. I can say with all honesty that you're a great inspiration, and not just you, but I think the stories we've heard about your father at the same time as well, hats off to him as well, and I think both of you are a great inspiration. You're truly inspiring so many girls out there, people like me who would be, wanting their daughters to grow up and be the next Urooj Mumtaz at the same time as well. I guess there are a lot of people out there, and on behalf of the entire nation, of course, or from the platform of PTV World and Sports Extra, I think We want to thank you for your services, and we wish you more power and more prayers that you continue these services for Pakistan cricket and Pakistan in general.
Thank you, Ahmed. You put such so wonderfully, and I'm humbled to hear what you've just said. Again, thank you very much for having me on your show. And if there's anything I can ever do in terms of promoting the sport or women's rights, I'm always available for Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Urooj. It's been a pleasure and an honor having you on the show. There you have it, the very, very fantabulous, the legendary gladiator champion that she is, Miss Urooj Mumtaz, in conversation with us tonight at Sports Extra. You've, now you know the whole story, where her career started from, how that balance was there, what ways she had to fight through as well at the same time as well, fighting those barriers, all those stereotypes that were out there. Then, of course, playing the game, loving it, and then staying attached with the game and serving the nation up till now, and of course in the future as well, is something very, very inspiring for all of us and all of you out there who want to be the next Urooj Mumtaz as well. We'll be bringing you some exclusive content as the week continues with Sports Extra as well. But for me and the entire team, until next time, we're going to say goodbye, but at the same time, stay home and stay safe.